On December 1st. We're outside One Police Plaza. Jessica Layton, CBSN New York.
So joining us now to talk about all of these developments is Mark Peters. You are CBSN New York's urban affairs expert. Now, Mark, you spent years working for the city. Now, this was as commissioner for the Department of Investigation. And during that tenure, the department critically examined policies and practices and as well as operations of the NYPD. So before we get into Dermot Shea, we want to talk about O'Neill and the legacy that he will leave behind.
Right. So I think, obviously, Commissioner O'Neill oversaw the police department at a time in which almost every violent crime category went down, and he managed to achieve that at the same time that he put in place community policing, which meant there were fewer arrests for more low-level crimes, and I think all of that is really to his credit. Probably the biggest problem in the legacy is going to be the fact that one violent crime category has been going up dramatically, and that's sexual assault. And that's the one place that the NYPD has seen a dramatic increase at the same time that there have really been concerns that the NYPD has not been properly staffing the investigation of sexual assault.
So that is a challenge that Chief Shea is going to face as he takes on this new job.
Absolutely.
So what are some other major challenges?
Well, I mean, the most basic challenge for the incoming commissioner is the need to keep crime down and keep it at what are already historically low levels, and to do so, especially because it's going to get tougher in the new year when the new bail reform and discovery reform procedures from the state legislature come into effect, because those are going to make it a lot harder to do policing. To give just one example of that, under the new statute, you need to hand over to the defense the names and identifications of all witnesses within 15 days of arraignment, which means one of the hardest things to do in law enforcement when you're doing violent crime prosecutions is to make sure that witnesses feel as though they're going to be kept safe. Right. Now, suddenly, in a gang-related shooting, you're going to have to hand over the names of people who are willing to testify against those gang members. And that's going to really make it a lot harder to do these kinds of cases.
Right, so a lot to deal with there. Now, switching gears a little bit, people are talking about, did the mayor miss an opportunity to further diversify the department by appointing Dermot Shea?
Right, well, I think the answer is pretty obviously yes. There was an opportunity to appoint somebody, a person of color. He didn't take that opportunity. But I think it underscores a bigger problem, which is that diversity in the upper ranks of the NYPD is not very good. According to one recent report of officers in the NYPD above the rank of captain, less than 25% are people of color, and less than 10% are women. So wow. The diversity problem is not just at the very top, it's at all the senior levels.
Right, so still a lot of work to be done there.
Yes.
Now, during your time at the Department of Investigations, there was a scathing report that was released. Now, that was about the operation of the Special Victims Division, and there were some staffing changes that were made as a result. So what part did Shea play in this, and have things improved? Right,
so the answer is not only have things not improved, but at least some of the people who've been following this think that it's actually gotten worse. I think the first sort of myth to dispel is, although the NYPD talked a great deal about how they had staffing changes, in fact, those changes were, at best, cosmetic. They failed. The DOI report that we issued found that even though sexual assault and rape were the one violent crime category that was going up year over year, the NYPD was failing to have adequate, properly trained staff investigating sexual assault. And although they added some additional staff, most of the people they added were not trained, experienced detectives, but inexperienced patrol officers, which is simply not going to get the job done.
Okay, so violent crime rates down, but sexual assault up.
Correct.
So Chief Shea says he wants New Yorkers to feel safe. How is he going to do this?
Well, the first thing he should do is begin to properly staff the Special Victims Division, which investigates sexual assault. And what's troubling to a number of people is he was the person, after DOI issued the report, he was the person tasked with doing a top-to-bottom review of the Special Victims Division. And as a result of that top-to-bottom review, there were no significant substantive changes. So that has caused a number of people to have concern about whether there will be changes going forward.
And we'll sneak in just one more question. Will criminal justice reforms that take effect next year, such as bail reform, make policing even more difficult?
As I said, absolutely. Not only because the new disclosure rules will make it harder, for example, to protect witnesses, but bail reform means that there are a number of crimes, including some violent crimes, for which people can no longer be held pre-trial. So yes, they will absolutely make things more difficult.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. A very interesting conversation, Mark. I appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Thank you. And coming up, there's even more news ahead.